So, hello, good evening, and welcome. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor, the English version. Last night, after the end of the day on Martin Luther King Day and the day Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th president, I gave my Russian version of this podcast, this radio program, of this video log on YouTube on my Russian version of this channel, Международный Vkus, which is the same thing as International Flavor. And this morning, I am pre-recording because I probably will not be available this evening to do my show live. It's looking grim for the home team there, trying to get that arranged this evening. Doesn't look likely. So I am going to be otherwise occupied, unfortunately, and perhaps this will make it a little better for us. There was a lot of big news. Trump's over 200 executive orders and his pardoning of the January 6th folks who were there. Closing of the border completely, and there's been a lot of discussion out there that, oh gee, how hard was that to close the border? The app that everybody was putting for easy coming into the United States, you know, maybe getting back to running the country instead of just passive sitting around and letting it be overrun is what Americans wanted. Not a word about Ukraine, nothing, not a word about Russia. Now, in my view, that's actually a good thing. It appears to be what's being said on the other side of the world in Russia as well, that they too believe that it's a good thing. But probably the biggest article of the day was published late, and it's not today, but it's the same thing. Is an article called "Here's Why the West-Centric World Order is Doomed." Liberal universalism, for all its claims of celebrating diversity, operates as a force of erasure, denying every culture's intrinsic worth. That, and I read this, and that's exactly been my thesis, that, other cultures, other people, other ways of thought are not a bad thing. And we keep acting like it is. Now, you may disagree with forms of government. You may disagree with other forms of tradition. That's possible. And I'd like to read that article to you. It's by a guy named Konstantin von Hofmeister, a political and cultural commentator from Germany. And he wrote a new book, Multipolarity. And multipolarity is the word of the year, people. And but before I get to that, we're going to talk about the U.S. suspending foreign aid. Americans in a poll said that Ukraine spends too much money on that the U.S. spends too much money on Ukraine. We spend too much money on all kinds of international things that have nothing to do with us. Why are we involved? A lot of us want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. I forget who said that, but there you have it. Trump suspends U.S. foreign aid. Funding will remain on hold during a 3-month assessment period. Now, that's not a bad idea. So let's read the article. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order freezing all U.S. foreign development assistance for 90 days, pending a review. Amid a barrage of other orders signed by Trump on his first day in office, the White House announced the decision as part of efforts to reassess the foreign aid strategy and ensure alignment with national priorities. U.S. I'm sorry, current U.S. foreign aid allocations are not aligned with American interests and in many cases are antithetical to American values and serve to destabilize world peace by promoting ideas in foreign countries that are directly inverse to harmonious and stable relations internal to and among countries. The executive order published by the White House on Monday said. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute because maybe I might have to eat some crow here, and maybe he is going to be awesome on foreign policy. I think it's long past the time that we need to change the way we engage in foreign policy in the United States. Diplomacy is dead. I'm not so sure the Marco Rubio is the guy yet, and he's next in next paragraph. But I that comment right there, not aligned with American interests, and in many cases antithetical to American values. Yeah, we go in, we destroy a country, pump up some third world backwoods guy, pump a lot of money in, drag back half of the money for ourselves through back channels for backdoor politicians. And I think that is what needs to stop. And now people finally believe it, see it on its face, because the criminal in chief took the money for the last 4 years personally for him. And well, last 8 years, he was doing it for a long time through Burisma, through stealing property from people in a foreign country. Anyway, the executive order directs federal agencies to conduct a comprehensive review overseen by the Office of Management and Budget, as well as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who can waive the 90-day period for specific programs. Not sure what I think of that. Is Ukraine a specific program? It was not immediately clear how much U.S. aid would be affected by the decision, as funding for a number of programs has already been allocated by Congress. The executive order echoes the stance Trump took in his first presidency when he moved to slash funding for various UN agencies and cut foreign aid. I will very simply put America first, Trump said in his inauguration speech on Monday. Trump was critical of U.S. foreign assistance to countries, including Ukraine, during his reelection campaign, promising to ease the burden on the American taxpayer and focus on domestic priorities. United States had been a significant supporter of Kyiv under former U.S. President Joe Biden, providing substantial military, financial, humanitarian aid, especially following escalation in 2022. In 2022 alone, Congress approved over $112 billion in assistance to Ukraine. In April 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. In January 2025, the U.S. announced a $500 million military assistance package to Ukraine. Russia has consistently criticized such support, viewing it as a direct threat to its security. Russian officials have argued that Western military assistance prolongs the conflict and destabilizes the region. Kind of hard not to agree with that, folks. Seriously. It's what possible domestic interest is there for us to be in Ukraine and to interfere in a conflict that, except for us goading the conflict forward, has nothing to do with us? We create a reason for it to have something to do with us, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. What do we care what happens on that side of the world as the normal everyday American? Are we really? Assuming that China is our biggest enemy, which I disagree with, but let's even presume that to be the case. China's not in the Black Sea. China's not running around Ukraine. China's not doing anything. The only way you can possibly wrap your head around this is to lie and tell people that Vladimir Putin wants to take over Europe. Never been true. It's not true. And anyone who believes it is a government paid expert trying to sell you something. So you shouldn't believe it. It's just not true. That ain't true, folks. And even if you believed it, even that, why would that have anything to do with us? It doesn't. And so let's assume that it is true for a minute that Vladimir Putin wants to take over Europe. Well, I'm sorry, Europe. That's unfortunate. It's really bad. And I like Europe. You know, I hate that they changed the policy of forcing us to get, as Americans, to get visas every time we go over there. We got to do something in advance now, and they're going to suck some more money out of our pocket when we get there, because I want cheap, if not free, travel if at all possible. You know, I don't want to pay these huge amounts of money to try to get visas. I would like the world to be a safer and a better organized place. But safe isn't putting military bases all over the planet, United States. And I really am tired of that. You know, the rest of the world kind of stays in its own borders. Why in the world are we so hell-bent on, I mean, how many bases does China have outside of China? How many bases does Russia have outside of Russia? Russia has several, you know, probably a good number, but only because we do. China, on the other hand, does not. So it's, I don't know. There's a little talk about Panama resisting the takeover of the canal. I wish they didn't have to do that. I don't know what he signed to get that done, or if there's any news on that. I hadn't seen any, but excuse me. Panama vows to resist U.S. takeover of the canal. And President Donald Trump reaffirms his plan to take back this waterway. I'm not so sure about this. Panama will resist U.S. President Donald Trump's attempt to reclaim the canal, President Jose Molino said on Monday, shortly after Trump was sworn in. I must wholeheartedly reject the remarks President Donald Trump made in his inaugural speech regarding Panama and its canal. Molino said in a statement, the administration of the canal will remain under Panamanian control with respect for its permanent neutrality. The president said, adding that no nation in the world was interfering in the control of the canal. Trump has always argued that China is really running the show down there. I think there are alternatives coming in, and it's odd to me that Trump will use the same security argument that Vladimir Putin used, but Vladimir Putin had the benefit of referenda in the Donbass region, in Crimea, in Kherson, in Zaporizhia, in all of the regions of Ukraine that he went into. Now, the argument was always that unprovoked attack by Putin into Ukraine. Not true, not remotely true, but nothing ever is when you get it in our mainstream media. And I wonder how bad that game's going to be when people get started. Anyway, the argument was always that unprovoked. Excuse me, but now, the same would be true of us going into Panama. I'm worried about I've always argued about the pendulum swinging and the pendulum going the other direction, and this pendulum might be huge. I mean, 200 executive orders. I don't remember how many Biden signed, 94. Arguably, we needed more this time to reverse this crazy trend. But what's to stop the next Democratic president from doing exactly the same thing? This is 4 years. What's going to happen? What are we going to do? If a Democrat takes office in 4 more years, they're just going to undo everything that he wrote. And I don't know that I like this pendulum going back and forth anymore. The pendulum has gotten into bigger and bigger swings. Well, I wrote 94 executive orders. Well, I did more than 200. Well, next time it's going to be 400. Rewriting the entire, you get closer and closer to dictatorship. And it's not dictatorship, but it's telling everyone what to do, to ignore this order, not that order. Hell, it'll take them 4 years to fight the executive orders. And then we start all over again. So we're wasting all of our time with zero uh, stability, no stability. We just change it. This is why our allies don't trust us, because everything changes every 4 years. This is why our enemies don't trust us, because depending on who comes in, and our enemies shouldn't, but when someone comes in, changes everything. Day one, changes it all. Day one. Now, a lot of people are happy for this. Frankly, I'm happy with a lot of this stuff that's come out. I think it's a good thing and a good start. And now comes the fighting. I like that Trump is far more open, that he can answer questions. The old Biden monster, nothing. That guy couldn't answer a question to save his life. He'd get lost. And Trump is not Biden, and that is 90% of the fact that it's time to be somewhat proud to be an American again. And I'm not so positive of that yet either. If we pull out of a lot of these countries, I will be, but I don't know that I'm going to wander around beating my chest and go, woohoo. It's I'm still looking for a place to go end up in retirement. And Russia's in that list, as are many countries in South America. Haven't spent a lot of time in Africa, haven't spent a lot of time in East Asia, but I liked East Asia. Sri Lanka was really nice. Little on the backward side, but you could find great places there. And South America has a lot to offer. Anyway, Milano argued, I'm continuing with the article now, regarding Panama. Molino argued the U.S. handed over control of the canal to Panama in 1999. Yesterday, I was trying to figure out when that was, and I just couldn't remember who had done that as the result of a generational struggle. And I couldn't remember the year it happened, but I knew I was alive when it did. That's all I knew, and I couldn't remember exactly when it happened. And I was like, man, who was that signed the order to get that done? And he vowed to continue to facilitate international trade through this vital waterway that connects the Atlantic and Pacific. We will exercise the right to protect ourselves, he said. Trump has repeatedly argued that the U.S. should reestablish control of the canal to forestall Chinese influence in the region. He has also claimed that Panama overcharges American vessels sailing through the waterway. During his inauguration speech, Trump said that the U.S. will be taking the canal back. I'm not encouraged by this rhetoric. Hope it is just rhetoric. Trump has pledged to carry out a robust foreign policy based on an America First principle. He suggested the U.S. should annex Greenland and Canada. I hate to laugh over that, but you don't just annex Greenland and Canada, prompting criticism from officials in both countries. And right here, I'm not an official, but I'm Samuel. And how about this? Prompting criticism from Samuel. How about that would be the end of the article. Crazy. Well, it's not. I mean, I guess it's not crazy. It's an interesting idea, but man, you, you don't just take over another country. You don't just. It's not. It's not what it's supposed. It's not what we're supposed to be doing. And I just. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this all comes in, and I hate to laugh about it, but damn, it's not anything that we would have expected from a foreign president to just well, I suppose we should expect anything these days after the joke that was Joe Biden as a president. I mean, Jesus, did he ever leave the office except to go to the beach? I mean, did he ever I said that completely wrong. Did he ever get to the office, or was his office the beach? Is what I meant to say. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know. But mostly when I was watching the Trump uh, orders, the Trump discussions while sitting in the office, um, and any executive orders, I was particularly interested in BRICS. Um, it's it's I I'm not sure what to say. It's the Times of India has an article out there that says Trump threatens BRICS nations with 100% tariffs if they try replacing the dollar. Trump threatens 100% tariffs on Spain, to U.S. to impose 100% tariffs on India. It's nonsense. Looking at the Times of India story, if I can get the entire story, you know how they are with these stories, and sometimes you don't get to read them all. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again threatened BRICS nations, including India, and threatening anyway, to impose 100% tariffs on trade in case the bloc moves forward with plans to replace the U.S. dollar. Now, nobody said they're trying to, the bloc is trying to replace. They haven't said we're replacing. They're given an alternative to the U.S. dollar, and India has purchased much from Russia with the use of the rupee. And so I'm interested in seeing how this plays out. It in his speech after assuming office as the 47th president Monday, Trump made it clear that any attempt by BRICS nations to move away from the dollar would not be tolerated. If the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay. But we're going to put at least 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States, Trump said, emphasizing that any such actions would result in severe penalties. He further asserted that the countries would have to face hefty tariffs even if they considered reducing the dollar's role in global trade. I've talked about this before. This is a large mistake. Because it's just going to get them even more interested in alternative ways to de-dollarize. BRICS, an intergovernmental organization, we all know that. Trump had warned the group previously in December against attempts to replace the dollar with a new currency. We require a commitment from those countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty U.S. dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling in the wonderful U.S. economy. Now, I wonder what that means. Is he still trying to force people back to the SWIFT banking system? Is he trying to force them back to the World Bank, to the International Monetary Fund? I think those days are past. I don't know that he can. And how is he going to tell India, the largest country population-wise in the world, that it cannot uh, trade with Russia in rupees? And here's a comment from Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, further affirmed India's stance regarding the replacement of the dollar, stating that the country has never supported de-dollarization and there are no plans for a BRICS currency, both of which are true. But that doesn't say that they're not going to trade for Russian fuel and pay for it in the rupee. It strengthens their own dollar, and it's good for them. On a different note, Trump also addressed questions on immigration. He expressed his support for legal immigration, stating that the country would need more workers to support manufacturing growth due to his tariff policies. I love it. I'm fine with legal immigration. I like it. We need people, and I'm absolutely fine with it. We want to have it. So I think that's interesting, and it'll be interesting how that plays out. I want to go back to my article that I was getting ready to read for you on why. Here's why the West-centric world order is doomed. That article I was mentioning earlier by Konstantin von Hofmeister. Good article. Liberal universalism, for all its claims of celebrating diversity, operates as a force of erasure, denying every culture's intrinsic worth. This is an opinion piece, which, you know, when I talk on these opinions, they're not completely mine, but usually, well, this one in particular, I tend to agree with. And I wonder, excuse me, if Donald Trump is aware of this multipolarity trend, or if he's just choosing to ignore it. We really don't know the answer to that question. But I read this article. It is it is so true. It is just true. It's absolutely true, and there's very little the U.S. can do about it. Um, I'm kind of seeing this American revival, if you want to call it that, the Trump revival. You know, we're at church right now, and the Trump revival is ongoing, and we're watching how. I don't want to call it the last death throes of a nation, because it's not. We're a great nation. We're going to be a great nation for a very long time, hopefully, unless we do something particularly stupid and the whole world comes after us. But make America great again, fine. Make America great again. When I think of that, I think of America itself. I don't think of the world becoming America. I never have thought that. I'm against that. And I don't believe that I'm alone. I believe that for the most part, the rest of the world, the rest of America thinks similarly, that we want to take care of ourselves first and then maybe help others, you know, as that becomes necessary, or if it becomes necessary. And I'm not so positive that certainly Rubio doesn't get it. Certainly Rand Paul doesn't get it. You heard their discussion the other day about you know, allowing people to trade with the U.S. because, and this is where I feel Trump is, unfortunately, is that we're the greatest economy, and so therefore everyone must trade with us. and we threaten people to keep the dollar, threaten people to trade with the dollar. What do we care? And maybe we should care. I don't, but maybe we should. But the rest of the world gets it. And as Americans, I'm wondering if you get it, or if you think that we need to force a trade between India and Russia to be conducted in dollars. I If you force people to do it, they're going to resist you. I think half of my life has been resisting resisting people who tried to force me to do something. Half of my life. It would have been far easier to not do it. But Americans, we don't like being forced. Well, neither does anybody else, by the way. And so I this we'll threaten a tariff to you. Well, guess what? They're going to find a different market, and that's what people are doing. They're finding different markets. You bring U.S. manufacturing back, great. Buy your own products because they're cheaper from China. There was an interesting article the other day about these chips and how the demand for chips from China has gone down dramatically, and that Huawei and many others in China have developed amazing chips on their own. And that now, because they saw the writing on the wall. And so their chips over the last 5 years have the number imported are crazy. And now they're selling their own products with their own chips worldwide, and they're on par with the same thing that America makes, that used to be the exclusive realm of America. But America's trade practices, like 100% tariffs, like frightening people away, are causing them to withdraw. China is definitely finding other markets. And so that's my initial take on where we're going with this article. But the article, this opinion piece by Mr. Constantine Hofmeister. I just wanted to say Hofmeister again. um, is saying some of the same things that I've just said. But here it comes in this opinion piece. The unipolar era is collapsing, and in its place rises a new world, shaped by distinct centers of power, each bound to its traditions, values, and histories. Now, who else? This is a great thesis sentence. Who else has been saying this? Sergei Lavrov, Vladimir Putin, Jay Shankar, Prime Minister Modi, Xi Jinping. Name it. Everybody's been saying this. What about our traditions? What about our culture? It's not all about America and the SWIFT banking system and the US dollar. It's just not. Multipolarity rejects the artificial imposition of a single worldview, instead proclaiming the beneficial heterogeneity of human existence. It is a call to rediscover the strength of firmly established identities and to embrace a stabilized global order. For centuries, the world was lorded over by empires that sought to impose their singular, myopic vision upon all people. Liberal universalism, with its insistence, like Star Trek's Borg with their hive mind. Of course, I'm a big Trekkie here, always was, but only of the first, and then the next generation. The rest of them I haven't really got into, but the next generation's Borg, I really enjoyed those issues. With its insistence on assimilating the world into one model, has failed to create harmony. Ain't that the truth? Multipolarity, on the other hand, recognizes that genuine coexistence depends upon respecting the uniqueness of each civilization. It seeks not to erase differences, but to create a world where each culture thrives on its own terms, contributing to a dynamic and unadulterated global reality. A profound transformation is underway, and that I agree with. Multipolarity marks a return to the natural state of a world composed of many civilizations, each pursuing its destiny. This revival is seen in the resurgence of ancient powers such as Orthodox Russia, Confucian China, and Hindu India. These nations are not relics of the past, but living civilizations, reconnecting with their historic roots to take their proper places in the present. They reject the universal dictatorship of the Atlanticist model, which imposes liberal democracy and market capitalism as universal truth. The conflict between land based and sea based powers is central to the unfolding multipolar world. Maritime empires like Britain and the United States, long preeminent in global trade and geopolitics, are now facing the comeback, excuse me, of continental alliances. The seas, once the lifeline of Western hegemony, are giving way to the strategic establishment of the land as a new focus of commercial and political activity. Tellurocracy, the reign of the land, confronts thalassocracy, the reign of the sea, tipping the geopolitical scales of power. Interesting, huh? Eurasia exemplifies the triumph of the land. Its vast connectivity through infrastructure and economic corridors, from railroads to energy pipelines, undermines the primacy of maritime trade routes. This contest is not merely about command over resources, but reflects a deeper philosophical divide. The land represents rootedness, tradition, and stability, while the sea symbolizes fluidity, disruption, and the unmoored aspirations of modernity. Multipolarity restores the equilibrium between these forces, defying the centuries long dominance of oceanic powers and placing the ancient, grounded civilizations of Eurasia at the forefront of global affairs. At the heart of multipolarity lies ethnopluralism, the recognition that I have an alarm going off, the recognition that distinct peoples cannot be blended into a single identity without destroying what makes them unique. Ethnopluralism opposes the liberal dream of the melting pot. Now, how do you like that? Viewing it as a forced amalgamation of disparate cultures. Instead, it argues for the coexistence of separate communities, each displaying its characteristics within its own boundaries. Europe's current discontent provides a stark lesson. The riot, and this is interesting, the riots and social unrest in nations like France and Belgium are not isolated incidents, but signs of a deeper crisis. These conflicts reveal the failure of forced multicultural integration, which has ignored the fundamental differences between communities. A more sustainable path forward lies in setting up autonomous regions where specific ethnic groups can live in accordance with their own traditions, free from external pressures. This model calls the decentralized nature of the Holy Roman Empire, which united different regions under common spiritual framework without obliterating their unique characteristics. This guy did some research. This respect for local autonomy fostered resilience and ethnocultural preservation, qualities that resonate with the tenets of multipolarity. The French political theorist Guillaume Fay's vision of Arcofuturism, never heard that one before, brings this idea into the modern era. He proposes a synthesis of ancient traditions with forward-looking innovation. This vision combines the timeless veneration of heritage with the opportunities presented by technological progress. It aligns with multipolarity by advocating a world that honors the wisdom of the past while engaging with the issues of the present. Of the present. Phase model offers a way to move forward without abandoning the foundations that support all civilizations. Africa's role in the emerging multipolar order cannot be separated from its historical experience of colonialism. The Berlin Conference of 1884 and 85 divided the continent among European powers, which stripped African people of their sovereignty and stole their resources. This era of colonial oppression imposed artificial borders and alien governance structures, setting the stage for decades of exploitation and instability. Think about that, folks. That's 180 years ago, and Africa has been suffering ever since under colonialism and colonial power, including that of the United States. Today, however, Africa is reclaiming its own agency. The spirit of Pan Africanism, championed by figures like Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois, inspires a new ideal of self-determination. Garvey's demand for African pride and repatriation, along with Du Bois' endorsement of global solidarity among peoples of African descent, laid the foundation for Africa's modern Renaissance. This revival is political as well as modern myth building, as African nations reconnect with their traditions and assume their rightful roles in the theater of continents. By rejecting the legacy of colonialism and embracing its exclusive path, African civilization contributes to the multipolar world as a vital and equal participant. America, long the undisputed headquarters of unipolarity, now faces its own reckoning. The presidency of Donald Trump signals a shift away from globalist ambitions toward a more isolated stance. Trump's rhetoric and policies reflect a growing disillusionment with the liberal international order, which has overextended American influence at great cost. His postulate of America first confirms the sentiments of a nation weary of endless war and foreign entanglements. How do you like that? Do you feel that way? I know that I happen to. The isolationist impulse, while criticized by many, marks a break from the interventionist policies that have hitherto defined U.S. overreach. Trump's method, although uneven, lay bare the contradictions within the unipolar system. As America recalibrates its role in the world, its withdrawal opens spaces for multipolarity to flourish. Now, see, that's what I was talking about a minute ago with all these 100% tariffs. I'm not sure Trump would agree with this article. In the absence of a single superpower, a more balanced global order comes into being, where civilizations assert their sovereignty without fear of external interference. Liberal universalism, for all its claims of celebrating diversity, operates as a force of erasure, and this I absolutely agree with. It reduces cultures to superficial symbols, stripping them of their depth and meaning. Driven by materialism and individualism, it undermines the spiritual and columnar pillars of societies. This worldview treats everything as a resource to be used and discarded indiscriminately, echoing the German philosopher Martin Heidegger's critique of the technological ordering of existence. Multipolarity is a counterbalance. It defends the sanctity of each culture, illuminating the true beauty of mankind in its authentic diversity. Civilizations are not interchangeable, and their differences are not problems to be solved, but treasures to be safeguarded. The multipolar order seeks to preserve these distinctions, creating a world where unique cultures coexist without being tyrannized by an alien entity. Ring a bell, anyone? How's that? How's that for ringing a bell? The unipolar world has not only been brought up by liberal universalism, but also by the persistence of white supremacist ideology. Rudyard Kipling's poem, The White Man's Burden, encapsulates the colonialist mindset that tried to justify Western European guardianship of the non-Western world. This paternalistic worldview, repackaged for modern times, persists in the form of Western intervention, sanctions, and mental indoctrination. Today, the imposition of perverse liberal anti values on resistant civilizations revives this older imperialist ambition. The narrative of progress and human rights often masks an underlying desire to enforce Western rule. Multipolarity deconstructs this racist agenda by affirming the dignity of all cultures and rejecting a moral superiority falsely claimed by any one civilization. It invites us to move beyond a colonialist hierarchy that has erected the modern world, creating a space where all peoples can chart their destinies free from external coercion. It's like he's lived this or something. The anthropology of Franz Boas provides a philosophical foundation for the multipolar vision. Boas rejects the idea of a universal hierarchy of cultures, arguing instead that each culture must be understood within its own context. His theoretical framework of cultural relativism dismantles the Eurocentric belief that Western civilization represents the pinnacle of human achievement. Boas emphasizes that every culture has intrinsic worth, born from its unique history and environment, just like every person, by the way. That's Sam's addition. This perspective aligns with multipolarity, which is against the imposition of a single model on all societies. Boas' work reveals the depth and sophistication of cultures dismissed as primitive, questioning the assumptions that underlie much of modern liberalism. His insights remain vital in understanding the revolutionary significance of ethno-culture plurality in the multipolar realignment of the world. The Russian thinker Alexander Dugin argues that each civilization, like an individual, possesses its own destiny and cannot be subsumed under a universal framework. Dugin critiques Western liberalism as a form of imperialism seeking to impose its diseased customs on all societies, whether they want them or not, through regime changes and bombs. Hello, Sam says, adds here, uh, hello, rainbow movement. Hello, transgenderism, which we got to force upon everyone, like including Ukraine. Nonsense. They don't support that. Uh, Dugin's concept of Eurasianism stresses the importance of rootedness and cultural identity. It puts the spotlight on the spiritual and historical depths of civilizations, standing in opposition to the abstraction and cosmopolitan rootlessness of modernity. Dugin envisions a world where each civilization prospers according to its own principles, rejecting the homogenizing pressure of unipolar despotism. An essential element of multipolarity is a strategy of remigration. This involves reversing demographic shifts that have destabilized social cohesion in many regions. Advocates of remigration argue that it is not an act of exclusion, but a necessary step toward restoring equilibrium and control. By encouraging displaced peoples to return to their ancestral homelands, this approach seeks to honor cultural and historical integrity. How about that? Remigration is based on the principles of ethno-pluralism. It aims to create conditions where all cultures can thrive within their deserved territories. While controversial, it is a practical response to the challenges of cultural dissonance in a world undergoing profound change. Hegel's philosophy sheds light on the historical forces driving the implementation of multipolarity. His notion of the world spirit sees history as a process of unfolding freedom, guided by the interaction of opposing forces. The unipolar world represents a stagnation of this process, suppressing the natural variety of civilizations. Multipolarity, by contrast, allows for the free development of all cultures, each contributing to the broader movement of history. Hegel's dialectic reminds us that authentic progress is born from contradiction, and multipolarity represents a resolution of the tensions inherent in the unipolar era. The rise of multipolarity is not an end, but a continuation of mankind's historical journey. The renewed world order will not be dictated by a single power imposing its will on the rest. Instead, it will be an orchestra of civilizations, each of them a potent instrument of ethno-cultural expression. Multipolarity promises a world where power is distributed and cultural integrity is upheld, creating the possibility for genuine cooperation. As the unipolar world collapses under its own contradictions, a new dawn materializes, one of richness, adventure, and optimism. For those seeking a deeper understanding of the ideas expressed in this article, my book, Multipolarity, offers a comprehensive exploration of the paradigms leading to this transformative era. How do you like that? Now, Multipolarity, the book, I'm going to search for and buy. It's by Konstantin von Hofmeister, the author of that article. And there are some truths in there that I have provided for you because I think it's important. I think it's important what what we think. I think it is very clear to the bulk of Americans out there that what we have been doing for at least the last 30 to 40 years, but probably closer to mid 20th century, uh, is just colonialism. And we don't like that. You know, we took classes in school about colonialism, and we don't think about us. We don't think about ourselves as colonialists. We think about the British trying to turn us into a colony. And then we had our own colonies. Boy, we had to break away from them. And boy, America was great then because we got rid of all them damn colonialists. Well, the French were colonializing everywhere. So were the British. How long did when did people finally get their own freedoms? In our lifetime, in my lifetime, a lot of these people got their freedom, if you want to call it that. But at what cost? What have we done to these countries? What have we done by turning Ukraine into America light or trying to? What possible good has come of it? 1 million people dead just on one side, by the way. That doesn't even count Russia's losses. It's depressing to me that even today we still pretend that we're fighting for democracy. No, we're not. There is no democracy in Ukraine. That's just the designation you give to this conflict. So you can claim that Putin is destroying Ukraine's democracy. Yeah, real democratic there. You don't even have a legitimate president right now. He's still imposing martial law, intends to keep it that way because he couldn't win if they had an election today. 73% of the people that were, when he won office, it was like 73% of the vote. They did a poll last month that said that 73% of Ukrainians are against where they're going, where the path, the trajectory that their country is on right now, and that means against Zelensky, and Zelensky not being invited to the Trumpster's inauguration was a big blow apparently yesterday he twice put little articles out on his TikTok or his Instagram or whatever it is he uses, congratulating Donald Trump, trying to become relevant again, but he's not. And I don't know that the U.S. can pull out of this as easily as they want. In fact, there's another article I wanted to read you about this that I read late last night. That we shall see what is happening. My main thesis for today was multipolarity, and frankly, I'm not so sure that Trump gets it. Like I said before, that the rest of the world doesn't want the American world order. They don't want it. Even Europe is against it these days, and they don't want that. They've been they've been under our guidance, overrun from the south, and that in large part was due to us. They've too have been overrun. Now they always had their share of transgenders and gays anyway, but those people weren't being destroyed or treated poorly. They were wasn't it was just something separate from work. Why can't you be both people? Why can't you agree to be or be part of the business world and be something else? The it it's I think Europe had it closer to right than we do, where now, you're supposed to be, if you're a traditionalist like me, you believe that a man's a man's, a woman's a woman, but you don't really tell other people what to do. That's not good enough. You're supposed to tell other people what to do, and you're supposed to honor those types of cultures, even if it's against your religion you're supposed to make a joke out of, even if against your belief structure. And it doesn't have to be a formal religion. It can be your own belief structure, and my belief structure is different than yours. And I don't understand why we have to be forced to worship at the temple of transgenderism. I don't understand it. Why we have to be forced to put gays and transgenders above ourselves as traditionalist people. Uh, I can accept the way they think, but I don't want it uh, uh, turned into the religion to force people into it, to teach it to 5-year-olds. I think that's BS, and just not the way to go. And traditionally, the things that have happened over the last 10 years, well, especially in the last 4, because the biggest changes seem to have come in the last 4 years, where you turn all this into a crazy joke. I really do hope that this mandate of Trump's uh, turns the tide for a little while. I really do, to stop this nonsense of praying at the temple of transgender. It's and you want to be transgender, great, good for you, but don't force it upon me, or force me to accept it from my family, because I won't. And I think that is probably, and the borders just being wide open, are the two things that people aren't willing to accept. And everything points to how easy it was for Trump to close that border, how easy it was to say, "No, the emperor has put his clothes back on, and the emperor is getting rid of these false rules that are based on a lie." So we shall see what happens. Article here with from where's this one from? From Russia Today. Posted yesterday afternoon. Ukraine could become Trump's Vietnam, says Bannon. Former White House strategist has called for an end to U.S. involvement in the conflict between Moscow and Kiev. I hope he gets it, truthfully. Former White House strategist Steve Bannon has warned that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump could become entangled in the Ukraine conflict if he doesn't take immediate steps to limit Washington's involvement. In an interview with Politico published Monday, Bannon compared the situation to former U.S. President Nixon handling the Vietnam War, in which he inherited a conflict from the previous administration and was ultimately defined by it. If we aren't careful, it will turn into Trump's Vietnam. That's what happened to Nixon. He ended up owning the war, and it went down as his war, not Lyndon Johnson's. Bannon, who is no longer a key figure in the Trump team, said. He argued that unless Trump clearly commits to stopping military aid to Ukraine, the conflict could overshadow his presidency. Nixon campaigned in '68 on a promise to end the war. Yet once in office, he escalated U.S. involvement through widespread bombing campaigns, incursions into Cambodia and Laos before ultimately negotiating a withdrawal from Vietnam. The war became a defining and controversial issue of his presidency. Trump repeatedly stated during his 2024 campaign that he would end the Ukraine conflict in 24 hours if reelected, but never provided specifics on how he would do so. While he has criticized U.S. military aid to Ukraine, he has not explicitly declared that he would cut off assistance. Bannon has urged Trump to make his position clear in his inauguration speech. He didn't, by the way. Russia reacted with skepticism to Trump's promise to swiftly resolve the conflict. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has questioned the feasibility of a rapid resolution. Moscow has insisted that any peace deal must include recognition of the new territorial realities and address the root causes of the conflict. Meanwhile, Trump's team is reportedly preparing a phone call with President Vladimir Putin, which could be held shortly after the president-elect's inauguration, CNN reported on Sunday. Primary goal of the call is said to be to discuss holding a face-to-face meeting to explore ways of resolving the Ukraine conflict. Peskov has said that Putin is open to negotiations with the U.S. president without any preconditions, while noting so far there have been no substantial preparation for the talks. I didn't look, but I didn't hear anything about it. But Trump-Putin call inauguration. Let's see. Putin congratulated Donald Trump. I listened to that. World leaders welcome return. Putin congratulates Russia. Russia's Putin discusses multipolar global order with Xi Jinping hours after Trump was inaugurated. Here we go. We have a call. Now this is from India. I'm not sure if it'll play correctly. We're going to try this and see what happens. No, it's not. But India has breaking news. Let's see what it says. Let me see if I can get it to play and get us some volume on it, see where it goes, and hopefully everyone can hear it properly. No, that's nothing. But it was from India Today, which they usually have pretty good content, and you couldn't hear it right. I've got to get a different set of speakers in here in order to pull that off if I'm gonna do it. So far not. Mostly new technology in here. Still working on the rest to get it all resolved. But I'm eager to see what news will come out um, when this call will when this call will happen. Here, the Kiev Independent came up with one. What does this say? Here we go. This is if they'll let me read the whole article. You know how this goes. Um, it looks like the entire the entire article is here. Um, let's see. This one is by Katerina Hodunova. Katerina Hodunova. Trump instructs aides to arrange call with Putin in the coming days after the inauguration, reports CNN. Well, why isn't a CNN source out there? U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has tasked his aides with organizing a call to Russian President Vladimir Putin in the days after he is sworn in, CNN reported. Trump has previously said he wants to meet with Putin very quickly after his inauguration. The Kremlin welcomed Trump's comments, but added no preparations were currently underway for the meeting. According to CNN, Trump is willing to discuss a face-to-face meeting with Putin by phone in the coming months to try to end the war in Ukraine. Trump's national security team began preparing a phone call with Putin several weeks ago, but it is unclear whether a date has been finalized. During the campaign, Trump promised to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, though his choice for special Ukraine peace envoy, Keith Kellogg, has since revised this to 100 days. The Trump team hopes to quickly begin work on a settlement plan that could be implemented within the first few months of his presidency. A meeting with Putin is part of this plan, according to CNN. Trump sees things differently, which could mean that negotiations with Putin will differ from the approach taken by the Biden administration, the media outlet reported, citing a person familiar with the matter. At the same time, Trump has not spoken to Putin in almost 3 years. Trump has often voiced sympathy for the Russian leader while criticizing the level of support the outgoing administration gave to Kiev. This prompted concerns that the U.S. leadership might cut a deal unfavorable to Ukraine. Kellogg says the president-elect's aim is not to give something to Putin or the Russians, but to save Ukraine and save their sovereignty. Trump said that specific peace proposals are still being worked out. A pitch leaked from his team, freezing the front line, postponing Ukraine's NATO ascension by 20 years, and deploying European peacekeepers on the ground, has already been rejected by Russia. Well, European peacekeepers definitely reject. That is no better than what you got right now. And all the Russians will see if they see that, is they will see a growth in the conflict. They will see a chance for the U.S. to rearm Ukraine and just take this up again in 20 years. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. And the Russians in particular will not accept that as a resolution. And it's not a resolution. How long will that be put in place? Another one was to kind of turn it into a Korea sort of scenario, East and West Ukraine instead of North and South Korea. Just does that work? Has it worked? What do we got? We have a divided people, similar cultures, very similar, in fact, identical histories, and just frozen in place for how long? And both still staring at each other across a wall or across a ravine or across a river. And in this case, it would be the Dnipro River, I presume. Russia is going to take the 4 areas that it already has, and I'd be surprised if they gave up on Odessa, truthfully, and to connect that region to Transnistria in order to get some form of of solidarity. I don't know, put it all together into one, uh, connect those areas of the country that are not connected. And because of the fall of the collapse of the Soviet Union, there are two places that are not connected, that have historic Russian roots. And one of them is Transnistria. And I think that long-term solution, if you're really thinking diplomatically, you're trying to resolve this dispute forever, not just for 20 years. And 20 years from now, what Russia's supposed to just get ready to deal with NATO? Um, I don't know. Here's a guy called Facts Preferred. Here's what he said. Nice thoughts, but with near zero chance of NATO admission in short term and low chance of big weapon deliveries. They would have to come largely from the U.S., as Europeans are almost unarmed, and Trump's America will never give substantive aid to Ukraine for nothing. It's nice to dream, but a healthy dose of realism in comments would not hurt. So, uh, interesting. Here, same guy says, I'm concerned about Trump agreeing to negotiations with Putin about a third country. How do you like that? But it's okay. Here's let's see what he finishes by saying. Hold on. Neither has any right to make decisions about an independent nation. I would accept Trump negotiating with Xi about the fate of Russia and Ukraine, as Russia is wholly dependent on China, and since the sole reason for superpower status Russia has is nuclear weapons. Russia's GDP is comparable to that of the state of New York or Canada or some European countries. That's not true. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Putin also scores a victory by negotiating with the U.S. as a peer about a supposed lesser country, Ukraine. This is similar to humiliating Yalta agreement, where independent nations were divided by the superpowers, Stalin, Roosevelt, Churchill, into spheres of influence. Many nations are still digging themselves out of a humiliating destruction that has caused. Ukraine may not be able to stop the insulting negotiation, but it should not feel least bit constrained by whatever Trump and Putin concoct among themselves. Well, I would tend to agree for the most part that the nation should be included. But where have you been for the last 2.5 years while old Zelensky goes wandering around the world with his peace plan that everybody gets to tell Russia what to do without including Russia? Let's negotiate, but not with Russia. We'll negotiate with the United States and NATO, and ultimately they can, since we can't, they can tell Putin what he's going to do. Not going to work, folks. Well, on that note, I'm going to end today a little short because I've got a couple of things I got to run and do. I appreciate you watching and listening to the show. My name is Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor, the English version. I'd appreciate it if you put likes on my YouTube, or if you listen to my damradio.com show every day, Missouri time, 4 p.m. to 5:30, basically. Sometimes a little early, sometimes a little later. And also, if you speak Russian, you could get onto my Russian channel, which is Международный вкус, and that means international flavor. And you're welcome to watch that also on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the program. You can reach me at by email is the preferred, samtrap1@gmail.com. Coming up on the show, if you get to, you can always download the schedule of Damn Radio. There's some great talk on there and some great rock on there. Music 24/7, except when we are on as a talk show. And well, not just me. There are a good number of talk shows on there, a lot to choose from. JR's on daily during the week from 2 to 4, and I am on from 4 to generally 5:30. I look forward to providing content for you every single day during the week, and I appreciate you listening and subscribing. Have a very nice day. This is Samuel Trapp out.